This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off.
What up, y'all? We are here at the wonderful ZFGHQ for another episode of The Great Joy Hunt. My name is Andrew Defy, a.k.a. the Gorilla Poet Laureate, a.k.a. the Hoodie God, a.k.a. Spitting Quarantino, a.k.a. I wear my sunglasses indoors all the time because my eyes are as sensitive as my heart is, y'all. And so we got a very, very special episode. We got a very, very special guest in here today. So before we get into all of that, y'all know what time it is. If you've ever seen the show before, if you've ever tuned into the show before, you know what time it is right now. This is the time when I ask you, what's your number?
This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off.
What's your number, y'all? What's your number? What's your number? What's your number? So here on the Great Joy Hunt, we use a scale of 1 to 10, or like yellow to purple, or like giraffe to turtle. I don't make up the rules for you. You know what I'm saying? You make up your own rules. You make up your own scale. So what is your number? You can leave it in the comments. You don't have to leave it in the comments. This is just for you to take stock. But if you want to let me know how you're feeling today, go ahead and do that. Put it in the comments. We always enjoy the audience participation. We got a 6.5 ringing in early today. Okay. We're going to do some work on that, though. You know what I mean? Cha-Cha says 10. I have a special night plan and it's got me feeling happy. Ooh. Okay, so we got a 10 and a 6.5. Where are you at on the scale today? 1 to 10. Tell me all about it, or don't. You know what I mean? Or keep it to yourself. The reason we do this is because if you know where you are, you know where you're trying to get to. I would never advise that someone try to get from a 1 to a 10 because there's like 9 numbers in between there. You know what I mean? So if we take stock in the morning of how we're doing, then we know what we're trying to get to for the rest of the day. So that's what's your number. That's the basic theory. You know what I mean? I try to do this in the morning and then at night. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Oh, we got a 10 and I can't wait to see Manushi already. I ain't even announced who the guest is. We got waves. Shockwaves going through Sacramento right now. So yeah, count your number up. And I think with that, we just gonna get right into it, y'all.
This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off.
She is an associate marriage and family therapist. She is an entrepreneur. She is one of my favorite follows in all of Sacramento. Just someone who is a beacon of radiance that those people that like you can tell it just like comes from the inside. You know what I'm saying? So it is an incredible 10 in deep appreciation of the number of Super Bowl appearances by Tom Brady. Take Tom Brady out of here, bruh. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not here to shit on your joy. So yeah, we're gonna bring our special guest in right now, y'all. This is Manushi Weerasinghe.
Wow,
Your crowd goes wild.
I love that hype up, man.
Yo, they don't call me they don't call me Captain Intro for no reason. You know what I mean?
I think.
Minnie says 20 today because we are honoring Black History Month tonight at my council meeting. Hey,
nice. Awesome.
Sending all the love. Yeah, of course you don't mind at all, Leonard. You're a fucking Brady fan. All right. I'm done. How are you?
Oh man, I'm well. I am really appreciating this conversation because, like you're saying, we need to take inventory. I think it's been a long year, and it's good to recognize where are we at, where did we start, where are we at now, right? Almost a year into being in quarantine, Corona taking over our lives. So you're doing a good thing here.
And we're just trying to keep mental health into some kind of pattern. I find that like ritual is super healthy for me.
Absolutely.
You know, and I can't even front like this is a completely altruistic effort. It definitely keeps me in my joy rituals because if I'm not
Mhm.
doing my joy rituals, then I can't really jump on here and be like, "All right, y'all. So how's everybody doing?" Like, so it
Yeah.
definitely keeps me honest about my own rituals, and then I think just this understanding of where you start out in the day, this idea that you can't get from a 1 to a 10, right? So taking that stock of where you're actually at. And then what I find interesting about this is that the things that bring me joy at a 10 are very different than the things that bring me joy at a 1. Right, like at a 1, I'm like, I need sunshine, my dog, some
Yes.
juice, like it's really basic, really general things. Where when I'm
Yes.
at a 10, I'm like, I'm joyful for the challenges that have faced me and every obstacle that comes my way. Like, yo, what?
Right.
You're thankful for shit not going right? Like when I'm at a
Yes.
10, yeah, I am. But if
I
I'm at a
love
1,
that.
I need some juice, you know?
Yeah.
So where is your number at today on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, just like coming on here and your energy is definitely affecting how I'm feeling, but I think I woke up probably at a 5 or a 6, but I'm getting to maybe a 7. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep working on that. We'll see. We'll ask you again at the end of the program.
Yeah, for
And if I
sure.
gotta get this little dog out here,
Please.
she probably got muddy ass feet. That's why I'm not. That's why she's on my lap right now. Y'all don't understand. Y'all be like, we want to see the dog. Yeah, but the dog gotta sit on someone, and that dog always got muddy feet. Uh,
Oh,
so, man, where to even start? So, what are your joy rituals, like your personal ones? And then do you find, I always think of, the healers in our communities, right? So whether that's like, the elders who do the limpias, or whether that's like a more traditional, like a therapist like yourself, right?
mhm.
Um, what extra do you do on your end, right? Like I think of therapists where it's like people just put their weight on folks all day. So
Yes.
what are your normal practices, and then what are your I'm a therapist, I got a little bit of extra cleanse that I got to do practices?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I think normal rituals for me, like you were saying, some of the basics, right? I know for me, I have to have a cup of tea every morning, and something has gone off if I didn't get to have that moment in the morning, right? So that's how I gauge my day. Like, did I have that morning where I could sit, relax, even for 15 minutes and enjoy this cup of tea, right? And it's not this big thing, right? But it's the moment that brings me joy. um Drinking water, making sure that I have breakfast, right? Like those are the little things, the rituals like you're talking about. um Fixing my bed, right? That just tells me, okay, I'm feeling good and I'm not feeling pressure or stress. I would say as a therapist, the biggest thing that's helped me is boundary setting, which is kind of on the front end, right? So that way on the back end, I'm not so stressed or overworked or carrying too much from my clients, right? So from the get go, I have the foundation that I need to set boundaries around my profession. Any therapist would tell you that.
Mm. Well, and I think, one of the reasons that Manushi is one of my favorite follows, I love people that can be light but aren't afraid of the shadows, right? On this here show, y'all listen to me grumble and complain about what I like to call the Crystal Kids a lot, which are just the folks that will love and light you to death, as though there's not like a whole system of oppression that goes on in this country. And I think you hit the nail on the head talking about, I was talking to Adrian not too long ago about the real self-care work, right? Like self-care sometimes looks like going shopping or taking a spa day or treating yourself.
Right.
But there's another side of self-care. And when you're talking about boundary setting, like I feel like boundary setting is such a crucial, like that might be at the center of like real self-care.
Right.
So just this idea that it's not always glamorous, that it's not always something you want to Instagram about. So what are other practices along with boundary setting that you consider like part of that self-care?
That's huge, Andrew, what you're talking about, that it's not pretty, like what actual self-care looks like, right? It is taking personal inventory. Like, do I need another shopping spree, or do I need to really sit with myself and feel these feelings that I've been avoiding for years, right? Like that is self-care. Boundary setting, I feel like, has been so important in my life, because I've realized that otherwise it turns into resentment towards this person that is just reacting to the setup that I've set up, right? It's like, if I'm not saying, hey, this is too much for me, or I'm not emotionally ready for whatever you're presenting to me, that's on me, right? Yeah, toxic positivity, absolutely. So it's a loving act to set boundaries, right? Because that's telling myself and the other person, hey, I don't want to build resentment towards you, so I'm going to set this boundary for myself. So that's just going back to what you're talking about with boundary setting, that's been huge for me. And what was the second part of your question? Oh, the self-care, right?
Yeah, just any other, especially that grimy self-care.
Yeah.
That not pretty self-care. What should we also be kind of looking at?
Oh man, sitting with the feeling. That's been the hardest one for me, because there's so many things to distract us, right? And I don't think we get rewarded for some of the work that we do. Well, a lot of the work we do is invisible and personal, right? So I don't think, I don't wake up every day like, oh, I'm going to get a gold star for working this hard on myself today. A lot of the times it goes unnoticed, right? Maybe someone will notice weeks down or months down the line, like, hey, you're looking healthy, or you look happy, right? But there was weeks or months or sometimes years of work that it took to get to that point, right? So that's something I'm looking at, is self-development and healing without external validation.
You got to give yourself them gold stars, y'all. Yes. That's one of those things in my personal practice. Just the saying, I'm getting better at this.
Yes.
Right? Like that's how I celebrate things. It's also how I practice being gentle with myself, because there's a distinct, like, I'm not there yet. I haven't gotten there yet. Instead of being, yo, I'm getting better at this. I'm better than I was yesterday at this. This is a little easier than it was a week ago, right? So yeah, I think Cheryl says, LOL, I actually bought star stickers.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
For real, get yourself some gold stars.
Yes.
And there is that part, something I noticed too, and I notice it in a lot of creatives and a lot of like entrepreneurial folks, especially, is the lack of celebration, because there's always the next goal to get to. Right. And there's always going to be, I promise y'all that, like, my entire life from when I was 13 years old, I wanted to be a poet laureate. I was poet laureate for about 3 weeks before I was like, all right, so the next thing that I want to do is, right.
Exactly.
So like something bigger and next. So taking that time, how important is taking the time to celebrate and congratulate yourself and do a little touchdown dance by yourself?
I think it's absolutely important that you do that and celebrate the small, well, what you would perceive to be small, right? But to somebody else, they might think it's a big deal. I think it is important to celebrate and acknowledge that you've accomplished something, right? Absolutely, in the entrepreneur world or any area where you're striving for something, right? And then there's a structure where you can get better or climb, right? I think you're going to have that feeling of inadequacy, like, oh, what's the next thing, because this isn't big enough. You have to take the time to celebrate and let others celebrate with you, right? Because I'm sure they've seen you work hard and they've rooted you on. So, give yourself that moment. That's part of self-care too, right? Giving yourself that moment to appreciate yourself. And I think you mentioned self-compassion, right? Having that compassion for yourself, like, hey, I worked really hard on something and I accomplished that. So celebrate, right? I
What's
think it's
your
important.
what's your preferred method of celebration?
I love sharing with my friends. Like, to me, that is what brings me happiness, is to see my circles happy, right? And yeah, I think that's been some of the happiest memories that I've had is, hey, I did something, but I want all of you guys to be there to celebrate with me, because I don't know. Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge the people that helped us get to where we're at, or gave us some supporting words, or allowed us to accomplish these goals. And we don't do these things by ourselves. We have a lot of people rooting us on one way or another. They're supporting you. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. And it's good to humble ourselves in that way too.
That's one of the biggest things I missed since this pandemic. Like I had a whole many crew of people who were all about, like, we sit down in January and we discuss what everyone's personal goals are, what the crew's goals are.
Yeah.
And as we like knock these things out, like party after party after party after party. So yeah, I definitely understand that, and the wanting to like build with the people who helped you do that as well. So, I've been doing this show since January, and then last week, so I'm working on a book. I'm working on a workbook that'll be like a little passage per day, and then it'll be like an exercise per day to like get your joy up.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
then as I'm working on this book, last week I'm pacing around my house doing the after midnight pace around, and I start thinking, that little voice creeps in. It's like, you don't know anything about joy. What are you talking about? How do you define joy? What is joy? Is joy permanent? Is joy conditional? Is joy unconditional? Like,
Yeah.
well, you don't even know what you're talking about to be writing a book, dude. So I want to get deep with you a little bit on what
Yeah.
you think, like, what do you define joy as?
Oh man, yeah. You said some really good stuff there. I wrote down, like, is joy unconditional, right? I've thought about that a lot, because that's something that came up in my life, is that I realized I felt like I needed to accomplish something in order to give myself joy, right?
Mm.
And would we do that to a child? No, right? Like, I always think about my inner child. It's like, would I give my inner child love? Would it be unconditional, or is it only if they did this one thing that I wanted them to do? Most
Mm.
likely, I think most people would give your child unconditional love, right?
When I think about, I use that a lot in my frame of reference as well with the child. And I use that the most when we mess up on something.
Yeah.
So if we say, like, I've been off cigarettes for 7.5 months. If I go today, something happens, something triggers me, I go have a cigarette, right? I'm going to beat the shit out of myself because that's who I am. Meanwhile, I'm like, yo, when the baby is learning to walk,
Mm-hmm.
and it like takes its couple of steps and then it falls on its ass.
Yeah.
We don't yell at it and
No.
scold it, right? Like we like,
Right.
are you good? Are you cool? Do you need to be picked up? Are you gonna cry about this? Are you cool?
Right.
And I think just that mentality, things started really changing for me when I got into that mentality of like, treat yourself like you would treat that baby learning to walk, and not be so hard on ourselves. So I love that you're taking it to the inner child.
Yep.
Yeah. So so that's what I'm thinking about with joy. So my natural instinct is like joy is unconditional, right? Like you can find joy, you cultivate joy. Joy comes from the inside, whereas happiness comes from conditions and outside things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I start thinking about how certain things can like steal your joy.
Mm-hmm.
But if joy can be stolen, then is it unconditional?
Right.
Like this is what my head is like after midnight,
Yeah.
any given night, pacing
Right.
around this house. So, how would you define the differences between joy and happiness?
I liked what you said about happiness coming from the external world, whereas joy is more intrinsic, right? But I think there's something there. It's like, is joy this foundation that we should all have, right? Just like, I don't know, breathing and having a right to food, right? Like there are basic things we expect a child to have, right? A roof over their head, for safety, right? So is joy one of those things that are foundational? And I think it should be, right? Because it allows a child to grow and it allows us to grow, right? So I feel like what you're saying about can it be taken away? I feel like that's part of the conditioning, right? It's like, oh, you did these things, so now you can feel joy. Whereas, hey, let's just feel joy. Like, you have this, you have joy. It's not something that can be taken away. Okay, maybe the circumstances are lowering your feelings of joy, but it doesn't mean that it's gone away, right?
Yeah. And I was talking to someone about that the other day, and it's that Courtney mentioned toxic positivity culture, and this is like trying to be on the other end of that, where like, it's not being an ostrich, it's not digging your head in the sand and not looking at some of these oppressive structures and just like the foulness that's out there. But this idea of cultivating joy inside of you so that the things that suck less.
Yes.
That's kind of like the idea, when
Right.
I think about joy and when I think about like what the great joy hunt is for, I do think about a lot of the activists that I know on the front line that are so hard working,
Yeah.
and that can burn out people really fast and really, really hot. It burns really fast and really hot.
Yeah.
So this idea of cultivating joy helps to kind of stave that off a little bit for
Right.
me. It's not, I had somebody a while back was talking to an associate of mine and was like, does he ever have a bad day? Like, bruh, like all the time.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, y'all. I'm not immune to any of this.
Right.
But I think the differences in what people see is that I'm consistently looking for what there is to be positive about, what there is to be grateful about, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that gratefulness practice is pretty much everything. Like the way you shook your head just then, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm on to something right here. Like,
Yes.
who knows?
Gratitude is huge.
Yeah, I think is there a bigger piece of joy than gratitude?
Oh man, I feel like gratitude is everything. Like that, that lens, that perspective, I feel like has changed my life, right? And I feel like it's one of those things, again, that we need to teach children. Like, I feel like that's a thing we need to learn from the beginning, right? And I really struggle with this. I feel like we've done society a disservice by not giving kids this skill set, right, of having a different perspective, right, or putting on different lenses. Like, hey, today I feel this way, so I'm going to choose this lens to look through life in, and that is gratitude, because that's what I need right now. So we can take inventory. Like, I wake up and I feel like this, so I'm going to choose this perspective, right? And I think gratitude is a great default perspective to be in, great lens to be in. And mhm.
No, I just love this idea of lenses, like the visual that I get as someone who constantly has sunglasses on. The visual that I get is like this almost like cupboard filled with different kinds of glasses, and which
Yes.
ones am I going to put on?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We've got some great comments in our comment section so far. Loving the inner child. Reparenting ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, that's we pin that. We're gonna come right back. The gratitude journal. I think the gratitude journal is so important. I have a note in my phone that just says grateful, and like as I'm going through the day, and I'm like, you know what's tight? The internet. Like the fact that we can like talk to people on the other side of the world, that's so dope. Like, hold up.
Yes.
And then like, you know, when the hard days come, the reason that I love the gratitude journal is because when the hard days come, I just pop open that note.
Yeah.
You know, they're like these hacks that I have. That note is one of them. I have what I call a feel good playlist.
Yes.
So as soon as I gotta like, if I say it right now because I got too many devices that have Siri on them. So
Yeah.
she'll just start playing something and I'm like, yo, I don't own the rights to that. But yo, like the feel good playlist and the gratitude journal or note are so crucial.
Right.
Toxic positivity is the worst. We can all agree on that. Take your crystals and go sit in timeout for kids. Being worthy.
I love these. Yeah.
Yo, the worthiness and the fact, you know, what I love about this idea is that we didn't have to do anything to be worth joy, right? Like you're born deserving of joy. You don't have to like work to get there, you know, like, and I think that's such a, you know, we're taught in our culture, especially in American culture, that like you got to do X, Y, and Z before you're worthy of joy, right? Like, you know, everybody can hunt life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're all allowed to pursue happiness, but you gotta you gotta pull yourself up by the bootstraps before you do it. I don't believe that. Like, I believe
again, it's this idea that it's something out there versus something we can build on, develop, or just have, right?
And see, that took me so long to figure out. And I'll tell you, this is going to be a good watch me segue this right now, because it was therapy. It was talking to someone, right? Like this is why y'all will hear me. I'm the biggest advocate. Everybody should get a therapist. Like it should be like doing your taxes. You know what I'm saying? It should be like putting on shoes. You know, like there's such a stigma around it, which is weird. Like I'm just trying to end all of that stigma around that. Like, yo, like we talk to our homies about our problems anyways.
And it's normal.
We get some homies that have like some education around these problems that see them constantly. Like, so I have so much love for you and your compatriots, and just what y'all do. What are you? How have you seen your work change and therapy change just as a whole since the COVID?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's, significantly. I mean, all of my services are online now, right, via Zoom. It changes the dynamic. I think there's a lot to say about human interaction and face to face interaction. And there's a lot there that we miss when we're not in person. And I don't think we've quite understood that until now, because we've never been in this situation where we can only do telehealth, right? There is body language to analyze, right? There's energy, there's a different experience when you're in front of somebody. And I'm glad for that, because I think the internet is wonderful, technology is wonderful, but I think it's kind of taken over our lives in a way, right? And we have replaced interaction, like genuine pure interaction with with Instagram, with phone, or like even FaceTime. Like, yeah, people, it's great as a tool, right? Like, yeah, if someone's living far away, it's a great tool to communicate with that person. But I think face-to-face interaction is the best way to talk to somebody and understand and fully engage. I don't know. So that's definitely affected therapy. But again, I'm just grateful that we are able to provide services one way or another, because uh, the worst thing would be just to not be able to provide the services I worked with kids. So I'm grateful, but I am also sad that there's a lot we're missing because we're not seeing them in person.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think your profession is very similar to mine. In the listen, I hate doing fucking poetry over Zoom. Uh, like, I'm glad that I get to share with y'all. I'm glad that, like, again, like you said, it's better than nothing. It's better than
Right.
not doing it.
Yeah.
But it also just kind of sucks. And because of that connection, because of that, like, that connection isn't there in the way that it would normally be there. So I'm gonna go back up to Courtney, just dropping
I
bombs,
know. I feel like there's some. I can't see the comments, so yeah.
reparenting ourselves. How do you define reparenting ourselves?
I think, again, just going back to really seeing your inner child, like visualizing, right? And almost taking it out of ourselves and putting it, at least mentally, on the outside, and really seeing yourself at that age, where you feel like you were a child and you were the happiest, you were the most joyful, right? It is acknowledging, right, your circumstances, your parents' circumstances. I feel like reframing has been huge in my life.
Mm,
This is countering this idea of you can't change the past, right? Which
mm,
is
mm,
absolutely true, but you can reframe it, right? It's like, oh yeah, I didn't get this need met, but it's because of X, Y, and Z, and my caregivers did the best they could with the resources they had, or I did the best I could with the resources I had. Like, oh yeah, this I was this age when this happened, and I didn't have these tools that I now have, right? So I feel like for me, reframing has been a big factor in changing my reality or my perspective. Yeah.
super real. When I first got into the real self-love work, I tell people all the time, I got into Soul Collective. I went through rehab, I got into Soul Collective,
Mm-hmm.
started that gave me a reason to, like, give and a contribution to
Mm-hmm.
give to the community. So I felt like I was of value, which really helped me, like, build. But what I learned a few years later was that I loved what other people loved about me. Right? Like, I didn't actually, they weren't like things that, like, I love myself because of this. Like, I love that people see me as a leader, or that people see me as compassionate or a mentor or whatever. Right? So when
Right.
I get to that work, and I'm digging and I'm digging and I'm sitting with myself, and I realized one day that like, yo, I've hated myself since I was a baby. Like I was born with this wild medical condition where I was born without stomach muscles. So I carried so much anger towards this little baby for being born the way that he was born.
Right.
And it was so like, there was so much there. Estella gave me this exercise where she said, in your visualizations, in your meditation, go into the room, see the crib, see baby you in the crib. Go pick that baby up. I'm getting emotional putting these sunglasses right now just talking about it. Go pick that baby up. Tell that baby that you love it. Tell that baby that you forgive it.
Right.
Oh, the first day that I sat in meditation with that, like, you know, I don't know if any of y'all have ever cried with your eyes closed, but there's only like so much water that can fit behind your eyes with them closed before you have to open them. Like that's where I was
Wow.
that day. And I think just that exercise of going back and speaking to that child, for me, it changed a lot of things, and it really unearthed some deep trauma and self-hate, really. And it was like, yo, you haven't forgiven this little baby, you know, for things that it couldn't. What was little baby Andrew finna do? You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing you could do about that.
Yes.
So, I'm making Courtney cry too. Hopefully, these are gonna bring numbers up and not down. So
I like what you're saying about like it's active visualization. It's not like, oh, my inner child, I'm gonna be nice to it. No, it's active. You actually have to do it and follow through with every step of it. You know, like you're saying, visualize walking into that room, seeing the crib, seeing the baby in the crib, holding the baby, like every step. You actually have to do it.
And it's gone through, for me, it goes through every age. Like some days that's what my visualization is, yo, Andrew, I love you at 1. I love you at 2. I love you at 3. And what I've realized in this process, you know, one of the other things that I'm big on is, you know, I had so many people that were just like, you just got to fake it till you make it. Just tell yourself you love yourself until you believe it. And for me, that was so backwards, because every time that I said, I love you, and I knew I didn't mean it, it built up resistance to that love. Right. So for me, it was going backwards and realizing, like, number one, you can't have love without trust in any relationship with yourself, a romantic partner, a friend, a parent, whoever. So you got to trust yourself before you can love yourself. And a lot of times before we can trust ourselves, we got to forgive ourselves. And that includes, like, not only for things, you know, I had a very wise woman in my life tell me that I needed to forgive myself for what I'd been through, not just what I'd done, but the things that I'd been through. So like continuing to trace it back to that, because folks were just like, just tell yourself you love yourself until you feel it. And I was like, just getting more and more frustrated.
Right.
And I think that's for a lot of people, there's just so much of that. Like it's pretty much toxic positivity to just be like, just say you love yourself.
I really struggle with this fake it till you make it mentality. I understand why people say there's some circumstances, but it does not apply to every single part of our lives. And the thing is, we'll make it. You'll make it and you'll fake it, and then you won't know how to not fake it anymore. And you'll make it and feel like shit, you know? You'll get to these places that you really wanted to go. And I'm speaking from personal experience too, because I think I opted into that mentality for a bit, and I accomplished things, and I wasn't happy. So it's like, oh, we get really good at faking it, I think, as a society, right?
Yeah. And I mean, so when I'm working with young people, and especially creatives, I tell them that fake it till you make it is for fakers. And we don't fuck with fakers around here. Like, we don't front. That's rule number 1. Don't front. So what I teach is feel it till it's real shit. So this idea of like, um, I want to be, rich, right? It's the same as it's basics of manifestation. I'm gonna get a little woo woo on y'all right now. It's fine. Just deal with me right now. Um, but if I say I want money, like I want financial stability, I'm trying to manifest financial stability. I can either stay focused on the amount of money that's not in my bank account right now,
Mm-hmm.
or I can start counting where I do feel rich and put my focus there, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that looks like my community, right? That looks like the people in my life make me feel rich. Like I don't fear starvation
Mm-hmm.
the way that a lot of people do because I got so much love in my community. In
Mm-hmm.
that way, I am rich,
Yes.
right? So focusing there instead of focusing on what I don't have, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's still, I mean, we're going back to that same resistance of like, I love myself. No, you don't. Like, so yeah, that feel it till it's real shit.
Yeah.
Finding those things like, yo, I want to be successful in my work. Where do you feel the most successful? Feel that. Let yourself feel that. Let yourself like, what's the word that they talk about when you just soak it in. You bask.
Mm-hmm.
Bask. That's like
Yeah.
a word for it. And I think that's like a key to this vibrational maintenance is like
Yes. Yeah.
being able to bask in things, whether it's, whatever little joy there is, right? Like even if you're at a 2, is there a little dog that woke up cuddled up next to you being hella cute? Is
Yeah.
there sunshine going on? Is there something
Right.
growing in the garden? How was the bed that you slept on last night? Did your
Yeah.
heart keep beating all night without you telling it to? Um, so yeah, man, I think that's it's so Courtney said, "Fake it till you make it" is for a job interview, not our inner monologue.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly. Courtney's on it. She gets it.
precisely. A human touch is a need just like water and food. We need it. As a holistic health practitioner, we are taught there's a thing called touch starvation. It's a real thing.
Mm,
Babies will even die if they aren't held. When we open back up, there are folks who are going to need some real therapy for this.
yeah.
You
I've been
looking at one of them.
yes.
You looking at one of them. People are like, what event are you gonna do when everything opens back up? Fuck the events, y'all. We just
Yeah.
have a big ass hug.
Wanna hug
Like,
a friend, yeah.
yeah, like I don't know. People like, are we gonna do drunk poetry? Drunk poetry. I'm gonna just have a drink, cry, and hug all of y'all for an
Yeah.
hour and a half. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Um, it's interesting. I was just reading tonight. We're actually going to do a story on Masked Up about came out of the New York Times about the isolation and the effects of the isolation.
Yeah.
Um, how are you as a therapist? How are you seeing that affect people? Um, the whether it's because there's like two sides to this, right? And they suck equally. And I think each side thinks the other one has it a little better. Where
Mhm.
like someone like me, I'm locked up solo. It's me, my dog, and this fucking wild puppet, and that's our little pod. Where a lot of folks are locked up with their significant other, maybe the kids. So each one of us they think that we just get to nap and chill all day long. We
Yes.
think they're just in a giant cuddle puddle, getting all of it.
Yeah.
Um, so how are you seeing that kind of affect people in your line of work?
Yeah. I work with young people, right? Um, I think the isolation's really affecting them because they're in a critical period where they're still learning how to socialize, right? So
Mhm.
I find something I found really interesting is they're not talking to their friends, even though they're friends. So you can easily hit them up. You can FaceTime. You can do anything, right? You can play on Roblox or what is it, Among Us, whatever, right? But I think there's almost this like weird ego thing going on where nobody wants to initiate that. right? Because in school, they're forced to have these interactions. So there's no ego in saying like, hey, we're meeting up after class or we're meeting up at lunch, right? Whereas there's almost like this weird like power dynamic going on with initiating a hangout, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I'm too cool for that, even though they really want to. Nobody wants to initiate. And I think that the kids we're going to see that there. Yeah, someone said they're 11 and 14, right? Around those ages, the teens, it's like they want connection, but I don't think they have the tools to get to it. And that makes me really sad because they're really missing out on some important components and parts of their lives, like getting their driver's license, right? Or prom, graduations, right? Like all of those things just don't look the same anymore. And there's no going back, right? There's those moments are gone, they're past. So yeah, they can do like a little mock thing, but at the end of the day, we have to let go. It's not going to look the same. So, my heart's breaking for the children, for the kids.
For parents who may watch this, are there things that you suggest as kind of the preemptive? What can parents do to kind of combat some of that?
And I think I see it in my own life too, right? It's like I sometimes feel like I'm bothering someone by reaching out, because I know it's hard to exist right now, right? It takes energy to every day wake up and assess and accept that this is our reality. It's draining. And for somebody that gets a lot out of connection, I feel fully aware and hyper aware of how much I'm asking of my friends. And maybe they're doing the same. So we're in this weird, back and forth of not knowing how to show up.
Well, and I think that, so like maybe for parents, like being a little proactive and like setting up the play date,
right.
or kind of pushing that direction.
Right.
Also, if y'all want to slide in my DMs and push me towards play dates with people, that's what this is. That's what my Mondays
yeah, I love it.
My play dates with my homies when I get to catch up. But yeah, no, I think that's like essential for all of us. And the people that I know that are doing the best mental health wise have like some of those, I do family dinner with my crew on this night, or I have brunch with this group of people via Zoom once a week, or there's like regular check-ins with the homies, and finding those ways. So that could definitely, and I mean that's for all ages. That's for your babies, for yourself as well. I mean, I had an interesting one a couple weeks ago. Someone invited me to a Facebook room where there were 4 people. I have not talked to more than one person at a time in months. Like I was damn near at like system overload. Like, wait, who do I talk? How do I'm following this. Like it was like just distracted squirrel trying to like figure it out. So we forget, I think, how much of our socialness has just been kind of like moved to the side, to the back.
Well, I think we're being asked to be more intentional with our socializing, right? Whereas before, maybe there'd be more of a natural flow with how we spend time with people, whether it's like going out to the bars or whatever. And I definitely see we've taken a lot for granted, right?
Well, and I think there was an article recently that was talking about whole cross sections of friends like disappearing from people's lives, and it's like, they're the people you talk to on an everyday basis. Your closest. You're probably still talking to them. You're probably, but then there's all of these like acquaintance folks, or like that's why
networking.
I'm heavy on social media right now.
Mhm.
And part of that is out of my like need for connection,
Right.
right? Like, I've had to do a lot of like check-ins with myself throughout the last 11 months of like, okay, how much of this is healthy and how much of this isn't healthy? Like when you're hitting those like 10 hours, 12 hours of screen time a day, like,
Right.
are you good right now? Like
Yes.
you might be doing a little bit much, but it's like
Yeah.
trying to like make that connection. And I
Right.
think a lot of us are like just trying to figure out how to do
Yes.
in the age of
Right.
COVID, you know?
Exactly. It's like within this context, is it normal? Maybe, right? Is it
Mm,
normal to be on our phones for 10 hours, considering you're by yourself, or that's how you interact, or that's how you do your job? We really have to take the context into mind, I feel, because I found that I ran into that a lot with my kiddos where they're feeling depressed and whatnot. It's like, well, don't forget, we're in the middle of a pandemic. This is not normal. And I kept reassuring them, this is not normal. Like, please don't forget, these are not normal conditions. No one living has known, maybe like the Spanish flu, but like no one really knew how to survive in this situation. So we're all figuring it out.
yeah, and I think that's just so hit the nail on the head as far as the context goes. I have people that I talk to on a regular basis that are like, the homies will be like, well, I don't know, man. Like, I just got so much to do for this work and for my job, and I can't get motivated, and I'm just, like frustrated at themselves for not being able to get motivated.
Right.
It's like, yo, hold on, time out, just real quick. Like, you remember that we're in the middle of some severe trauma right now.
Yes. Right.
Like a lot of us work around like trauma informed healing and but for some reason we're not able to look at what we're currently going through and be like, oh, this is traumatic as fuck
Right. Right.
for everyone. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're getting daily updates on the death toll. Like it's not normal to see, but like all those people dying every day, and maybe we're not directly seeing the effects of that, of just that information right now. This is going to be long-term studies for sure to see how this is affecting us. But
mm, mm, mm.
yeah,
Yeah, that it's so real. And just in even in like doing, so I do a show on Monday nights that's all, it started all about COVID. It's now moving to a community health platform where we'll cover all kinds of, racism is as big a health crisis in this country as COVID is. So we want to talk about that as well. But it got to where I started out doing the numbers. So we'd start off doing the numbers because that was the heaviest part, and I just wanted to get it out of the way. And then I would have to dig and find like, here's a video of a turtle playing soccer, or here's my shit talking puppet who's gonna jump in for
yeah,
15 minutes, like, and just finding a way to offset this news that we're being hit with and that I had to deliver. So I stay really in touch with the COVID numbers just because of my own special edition immune system and because I'm working in the news on that.
right.
But even then, like it would be until the weekend that I would be like, okay, I got to go look at these numbers for the show. I got to get the latest one. I don't spend every day doing that. I
Right.
can't keep up with those numbers every day. I can't pump that into my veins every day.
Right. Exactly.
So I think the same, man, it's just really being aware of what your intake is. And then also like just knowing how the algorithms work. We
Yeah.
talked a lot about hacking algorithms here for your own mind as well as like social media stuff. I'll tell you that I started doing the Great Joy Hunt live stream in January, and midway through January, like I got up one day, I got on Facebook, and the first two posts on my timeline were about joy, and I was like, "Oh, I'm winning! I am
Right.
beating Facebook right now," because Facebook just want to give me all of the
Yes.
wild news and all of that. Like,
Yeah.
man, so man, has it already been? We're almost at an hour already.
This has
Um,
been great.
yeah. So, as a therapist, as someone who works in mental health, what advice would you give just people in general, also parents, because I know that's where your expertise lies. So what added bonus and advice would you give the people?
I think for the kiddos, just go easy on them. You know, it's like it's hard for us. Like we're struggling as adults, right? I cannot imagine like figuring out your world. Like they were already confused, you know, before COVID. They were still developing their identities, you know, their social network and all of that. They were already lost. And now, you know, all of this is adding so much to it. So just go easy on them and then go easy on ourselves, right? It's like give everyone what they need right now is just a little bit of a break, including ourselves.
Mm, mm.
Give
And
yourself-
treat yourself like you would treat your best friend.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
that's the mentality that I go into,
Yeah.
um, where like, I'll beat myself up all day long for some shit, but let any of the homies come in and have the same problem.
Yeah.
Like, "Ooh, calm down, just take a seat. Can I make you some dinner? Like, what
Yeah,
do you need?"
exactly.
Like, so why don't we do that for ourselves?
Yeah.
Man, all right. So we tapping back into the comments. We start off with we forgot how to public. Yes.
Yes.
Cheryl says yes, especially the essential workers. We
Yeah.
didn't really get much of a break. Yeah, man, and bless the essential workers, and make sure you showing that gratitude, that appreciation to the essential workers. You know what I'm saying? If someone drops groceries off at your house, make sure you give them a fat tip. You know what I mean? Make sure we're taking care of people and just spreading that appreciation. Yes, hyper productivity is toxic, especially now. Especially now. But I mean, I think a lot of that is just like American culture. A lot of our
Yeah.
value is like,
Right.
how productive are you? What have you
Right.
done? Like based on our productivity. Fuck
Right.
capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Fuck
Yeah,
capitalism.
absolutely. And you know, I mean, I think a lot about like who benefits from us being unhappy or not joyful, right?
Mm,
And not grateful. Like if we're not happy with ourselves, we are looking to feed into that void, right? That they say that is there. So that's with shopping or buying things that we don't need, or decorating ourselves in a way that we think is going to impress other people, or buying that new car. It's like who really benefits from us not being joyful?
mm,
But that's
Follow.
like a different I feel like that goes into like different layers, so maybe
Oh,
that's a different.
you an official friend of the show now. Like you can just come back whenever you want to. We can definitely get into that show as well because
Yes.
there's so much there, just in how we determine our own value, and we could definitely get into that because I mean I think for young artists especially, that's like one of the most important conversations. If you want to do this for a living, like you have to be able to determine your own value versus
Yes.
what other people tell you your value is, and all of that. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's going to be part 2. We'll
Yeah.
schedule that up.
Yeah, value. I think that's a great conversation. I think someone brought up self-worth, right? And how we're worthy. And we're worthy of everything, love, joy, all of that without anything, right? Just
Mm,
by standard.
mm. Corny said, "Ugh, tell that to the schools. They're expecting these kids to act like nothing is happening."
I heard about that. It's really infuriating.
Well, and there's again, I feel like it's really just like being easy with all of us. You know what I mean? Like the same thing for the teachers. You know what I mean? I tend to think it's not the teachers that are trying to get the kids to act like there's nothing going on, because the teachers
Right.
are very aware of the trauma. They
Right.
teach in the midst of it every single day. I think there are some higher ups who get paid depending on how many kids are in classes and enrolled and attending and all of these things, and that's who's really trying to drive no, it's normal. It's completely normal. Just
Yeah, they
you
can
know,
do it. Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, And she said, no, it's not. The teachers are great. 'Cause I would say, you know, like that's the the one good thing about teachers not getting paid enough is that we pretty much guarantee that most of our teachers are in it for the right reasons because they're not in for the fatty
Yes,
pay.
exactly.
So real quick, we'll do the quickest joy hunt ever right now. So if you are tuned into the live stream, tell us where your joy is at today.
This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out.
So I will start it off that my joy is getting to be with you this morning and like getting to really like chop it up and go deep. It's been at least 11 months since I've seen you and got to like touch base with you a little
Oh
bit.
my gosh, I was thinking about
So,
that.
so that's like super nice, as well as, you know, just being able to have a conversation with a professional
Yeah.
who works in mental health to just kind of expand on some of these ideas and some of these theories. I just write words that rhyme. Sometimes they don't even rhyme. You know what I mean? Like that's all I am. So it's really nice to have a professional in here to help us out with our mental health. So my joy is definitely there. My joy is in the juice, as it is always in the juice. And then, you know, just getting to just continuously getting to work on this new technology and these new connections, being able to connect with people, especially in the name of health. Like I get to do that show tonight. Tonight we're doing a Valentine's themed Black History Month show around health. So we got some really cool things coming up tonight on the show. So that's where my joy is coming from this morning. Where is your joy coming from this morning?
I have to agree with you. I feel like this conversation is bringing me so much joy because I don't know if I've reflected in a while, you know, because it's also been nonstop on my end with working with the kids and helping myself through it too. It's been a long time. I think it's important to evaluate and see where we're all at and reflect and have these important conversations and realign with the things I believe in. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Well, and just real quick, what is your Instagram? Because I've said at least 5 times throughout this broadcast that Manushi is one of my favorite follows in all of Sacramento. So if you need that good, make sure you follow on Instagram. What's the IG?
I just started a mental health focused Instagram. So it's SHI_heals. So like the last part of my name, she_heals, HEALS. Yeah. So I'm trying to do more promoting to end the stigma, mental health advocacy. There you go. There it is.
I would be the worst weather person in the entire world.
Like
I should have to be like it's wait, no, it's right, it's there. It's
I
there.
think it's there.
So you know, shout out to the talented weather people doing their thing.
Exactly.
I'd be a great anchor. I just would not be a fantastic weather person. Courtney says my joy is a cuddle puddle with Noah while we do school. Yo, get them cuddle puddles in. Telling you.
I love this cuddle puddle. I've never heard of it before.
This is going to be our that's the first event. Cuddle puddle.
Yes. Hashtag.
Look forward to it as soon as everyone puts their masks on and starts caring about other people.
Yeah.
So y'all make sure that you go follow Manushi and everything that Manushi is doing, including the new Instagram. You see it right here, right here. So yeah, that's I think that's gonna do it for our episode of the Great Joy Hunt today. Man, it was such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure. It was so fun having you on. We should definitely do this again.
Yeah.
So the way I do this is Mondays we generally have a guest, and I think what I'm going to try and do is turn these Mondays into like a podcast where people can just go back and listen to these episodes.
Gotcha.
Because I've been bringing so many just hitters in the mental health field.
Yeah.
Let's see. John says, my joy currently is oozing out of my Milwaukee 6-piece combo kit that just arrived.
Wow.
Go, John. Let's go. Thanks. Great show. Hey, we're just out here doing what we can, you know.
Yeah.
Every day we get better. So yeah, y'all make sure that you go tune in, follow everything Manushi's doing. We are definitely going to have Manushi back on, where we are going to have a full hour where we talk about nothing but value, where your value comes from, and how to set your value. Because we didn't even, like, we talked a lot about Manushi as a therapist. We did not even scratch the surface of Manushi as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurial badass out here. So we'll have to get that in some other time. Anything else you want to leave the people with before we get out of here?
No, man, this was wonderful. Yeah, I think joy as a foundation. I think that's what I'll be thinking about and giving to myself, and I hope everyone does the same.
Hey, so yeah, I think that's it. That's a wrap on episode number, I don't know. It's like, who keeps track of that kind of stuff? Yeah. So let's see. I'll be back tomorrow if it feels joyful. You know what I'm saying? And if it doesn't, then I'll just put a post up on Facebook. So next Monday we have Rashawn of Unseen Heroes and the Spiritual Homie, who's going to be dropping by. So we got an exciting guest next week as well. And then I'm working on a couple other folks that, like, it's kind of wild. Like, this gives me a real reason to hit some of my favorite superheroes up. That, like, I'm like, oh man, like, yeah, just people that I'd be super nervous to talk to in like real life. Like, all of a sudden I'm like, but can we talk about joy? Can you come on the show?
Yeah.
That's what today was.
I'm honored. It's really, really special. Thank you.
Nothing but superheroes on the show. So yeah, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna go chase joy for the rest of the day. If you are interested in community health, tune into my feed at 8:08 p.m. and we'll be talking about all things Valentine's Day, Black History, and health. And that being said, for Manushi, I'm Andrew Defy, and I love you, and you can't do shit about it.
This how God works. Take my position, what is given with no concerns. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off.